me see. I gotta find you.
Rhonda.
LaRonda, welcome. All
Thank
right,
you.
so this is simple. I'm going to run my finger through the deck, and you're going to stop me at the card that you want to answer. And you're going to tell us where you're from and then answer the card. You ready?
Stop.
All right. All right, LaRonda, your question is, if you could download all the cumulative knowledge of one person, who would it be?
If I could download the cumulative knowledge of all the people,
One person.
one person, I'm going to choose, oh my goodness, I'm going to choose Oprah.
Oprah, that's a good choice. That's a
And I'm
really
in Los
good choice.
Angeles, by the way.
You're in LA?
Yes, I am.
Welcome from the
And
West
thanks,
Coast.
Stephanie, for inviting me.
You're welcome. I'm so happy to see you.
Oh, thank you, Stephanie. Co-host already, showing how she. I gotta say, the RSV velocity at the end of Sunday or Saturday night and today was strong, y'all. So big up to
Yay.
you all. All right, Stephanie.
Yes,
We were talking about Oprah just the other day, weren't we?
we were. We were talking about Oprah. We were talking about Maya Angelou. We were talking about incredible women. So yeah.
Would you like to, just off of that synergy, try one of the questions to introduce yourself to the
Sure.
audience?
Absolutely.
All right, here we go.
And stop.
All right. All right, your question is, where do you want to retire and live out your golden years?
Oh my gosh. That's one of my fears. Like I don't know that I can retire. I don't know if I can afford it. However, all things, I'm just going to be positive. In terms of a physical location, Michael, I kind of like where I am. I'm based out of New York City. I spent a lot of time where I grew up in upstate New York. And so somewhere between the two or both would be optimal for me because that's where my loved ones are. And so as long as I am close to my kids, and other family, that's really all that matters.
All right. Actually, I didn't know you grew up upstate New York.
Yes. Yeah. Hudson Valley.
Hudson Valley.
I was born, I think I told you, I was born in Philadelphia. So I got some deep Philly roots there. Both my parents were from Philadelphia, but my dad worked for IBM his entire career back when, you had one job for like 40, 50 years. And so he was the first and only in his family of all the siblings to leave Philadelphia. He and my mother packed me and my brother up. We went to upstate New York, and that's where I grew up. Went to, in fact, integrated my elementary school, went to high school there, and then went off to college, and the rest is history.
All right. Amazing. Well, welcome to Actually Curious Empathy Workout number 7. I'm going to bring you back up in just a moment. Everyone, welcome. So the way we always kick off the Actually Curious Empathy Workout session is with a happy hour round. We start off on a high note of engagement. These sessions are not about us, not about the co-host here, who I'm so privileged to have here to introduce to you, but it's about you and hearing your voices and having the voice of collective present here, diving into topics of emotion, diving into topics of awareness, of topics like bias and creating safe space and strengthening our empathy muscles here together. So this week, our topic is the new necessary leadership. And what that's about is empathy, talking about the role of the changes that we've experienced here in 2020 have on the job market, for leaders, for the people within their responsibility, and how empathy and compassion plays into that, and what's necessary going forward. And I've been excited to dive into this topic. We started off the empathy workouts at the beginning of October with a plan to do four in the month of October to help our community strengthen their empathy muscles going into the contentious election season. And we're here. And we're here for everyone. Most of our community is very excited about the outcome. I have been fielding and engaging in some really interesting and encouraging discussions on email with folks who aren't as happy with the discussion. And at the end of the day, we're here to help galvanize an army of people to help bring us forward and bring us together. So welcome everyone. Let's go. So without any further introduction to this session, I'd love to bring to the stage Stephanie Royal from the Robin Hood Foundation and Julianna Akuamoah. And Julianna, you're gonna have to just make sure, I've said this so many times today on our warm up that I want to make sure that I'm saying it right. So you're gonna have to just correct me as we start off. But let's welcome Julianna from Arnold Havas to the stage as well. Can I get a warm applause from the community? Come off mute. Let yourself be heard. For
Woo, 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 woo.
All right, cool. Just because we're socially distanced doesn't mean we can't show our warmth. All right, so welcome, ladies, and thank you for joining me this Sunday.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for having us.
All right, so we're gonna just dive right in. Stephanie, since we got to know you a little bit here in the happy hour around Julianna, I would love if you'd lead us off and tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and give us a sense of the journey from where you were, whatever you want to interpret that as, to where you are here today.
Sure. Well, hi, everybody. My name is Julianna. It's Akuamoah. I don't think we've ever talked about my last name, but it's Akuamoah. My family's from Ghana, West Africa, so that's where that's from. I am the Chief Talent Officer at Arnold and Havas Media in Boston, so we're an ad agency. And I lead all things people related. And the way I got into this role was a very, very windy direction. It's, I tell a lot of folks, your career doesn't always go in that straight path. And my path certainly was a zigzag. Growing up, I wanted to be one of two things. When I was a little kid, I wanted to be either an astrophysicist or Janet Jackson. Something happened in the middle where, along the way, I ended up studying psychobiology and neuroscience in college, but I always still danced. And I moved to LA for about 10 years and was teaching and dancing, but also working. And then I started getting into creative recruiting, which got me into the talent side of the things related to people. And I ended up moving to Boston. I went to school. I am in Boston right now, just if I didn't say that. Went to school here. After being in LA for some time, I moved back to Boston and started getting into more creative talent roles and landed in an ad agency, which was something I never saw in my future. For sure, I don't think I could have ever predicted that I would have landed in an ad agency. I didn't even know what an ad agency was before I really started getting into this industry, which is a problem within the industry. That's a side note, but landed in an ad agency, and really, I think my naivete fueled my fearlessness. I didn't know what the rules were, so I just kept working really hard, took ownership of things, and just kept progressing up on the talent management side, and worked at an independent agency in Boston and Philly. And then I worked at a larger agency in Boston that role was really focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And then I came to Arnold. And, you know, all of the things that I've learned or managed through in the workplace related to the lack of diversity, equity, and inclusion have really prepared me for this year.
Wow.
So I've been playing a major leadership role, not only in our office, but across North America for Havas in terms of helping other CEOs and leaders figure out what to do.
Wow.
So here I am. And I've talked a lot with Michael about empathy and the role of empathy in the workplace, which is, I think, the beginning place of change is having that root of empathy at the core of what you do. So been putting that into practice everywhere I can and making safe spaces for people and trying to put some good things into action and hopefully influence the industry in a way that's for the better for the future. That's me.
Amazing. Juliana, thank you for sharing that beautiful background and snapshot into your wonderful, diverse career. So we're just gonna. I know everyone is excited to hear more. We're gonna ask you to sit tight for a moment as we bring Stephanie forward here a bit to shine here in front of the community. So Stephanie, you gave a little bit of a background, but not so
Sure.
much in the context of giving us a sense of your path to you know, Dr. Stephanie Royal here today with one of the most amazing nonprofits in the country. So please tell the community a bit about yourself,
Sure.
your road to where you are, and a bit about Robin Hood as well.
Great. Thank you so much. And everyone, thanks for being here with us today. I think my journey, you know, very similar to what Juliana shared, that it was not linear at all. And I could not have planned for this. I did set out to go into the corporate sector from the very beginning of my career. And so early on, worked in an investment bank as an equities analyst, and did that for a number of years until career disruption. 3 little children came to me, not all at the same time, but my sons were all born. And that had a real impact on the way that my career developed after that. So after the investment banking, I took some time to be a full-time parent, then moved into kind of by divine order, I swear. I was looking for a school for my oldest son, met the head of school, and she essentially told me, you belong in the classroom, working with young people, helping to guide their development. So career in independent school education started at that point, where I wrote and published curriculum, taught K through college, actually through the graduate level, also teaching teachers, which I really loved. But in that space, started to do a lot of work in the realm of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And that was a springboard to my next life in government, where I was tapped by Governor Cuomo to lead the state's youth mentoring program for New York State, which was really tremendous. You know, the New York State, and then as a subset of that, New York City, at the time had 800,000 students, which is just a phenomenal number of students. And so working to connect the business community with schools to do mentoring was essentially the mission. That led into some work in workforce development, where I started my own business, merging not only workforce development, but also the DEI component of that, because really to open equity in the workforce, businesses have to really attend to the way that they plan their talent management, the way that they think about their staffing, and be inclusive. And so if you remember, Michael, the first time we met, we talked about my work as the diversity whisperer, working with senior executives at major companies to help them understand the need for diversity, equity, inclusion, and representation. And so I think that's some of the work that I'm the most proudest of, that, you know, that I won't see the result of for quite a long time. And then finally wrapping up, that led to my current position at Robin Hood, doing all things people and culture and organizational development. Robin Hood, for those of you that don't know, is New York City's largest poverty fighting organization. And we fund over 300 nonprofits in New York City to help people reach economic mobility.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. So, I mean, needless to say, you two women are sitting in kind of different sectors, but on the front lines of people and talent in large organizations at a time that your role is more critical than ever before. So, I mean, what's your day to day been looking like these days as compared to this time last year going into the holiday?
Yeah. I'll start. I mean, I can tell you my day is managing risk pretty much all the time. We're based in New York, although our staff is now spread out across the country, a good percentage of them. But we are managing risk and thinking about internally, how do we think about a return to the office when that should happen? How do we think about our strategy, knowing that in New York City, another 200,000 people have dropped into poverty, right? And so how do we address our strategy so that we can really partner with the city to help manage that crisis? We also have to think about, as an organization, we can't do the work unless we raise the money. So given the incredible donor fatigue that we are seeing across many of the nonprofit and foundation world, how do we deal with that, right? Because we can't do our best work without partnership with the donor community. So it's really a lot. And I think that this conversation today is so exciting for me because the solutions to a lot of these things that we're encountering come down to leadership and empathetic leadership and really understanding one's responsibility as a leader to the greater good, to your community, and to service.
So just real quick, what's changed?
In terms of leadership?
Yeah, what's the if you had to sum up, what's the difference between now and I guess 5 months ago?
The way I see it, I don't know that it was much different. I just think it's more in your face. In our work, we're confronted daily with the data around the numbers of people living in poverty. And so COVID has really shone a light on the inequities within our country, right? Systematic oppression of people, inequality and access to quality healthcare or healthcare at all, inequalities within our schools, access to what people say is the right to vote, but seeing the way that has been, the attempts to dismantle that have been even more glaring. So I believe that the pandemic has really helped us to see more clearly what has always been there, but then exacerbated those problems, 1,000-fold.
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you for sharing. So Julianna, what's going on Madison Avenue, or should I say Cambridge Ave?
Well, it's difficult to sum up the day-to-day in one thing because there's so many things that are really important when it comes to people, and people have so many different needs that need to be met. But I guess there's three categories of things that kind of consume my time, mostly advising, coaching leaders. Just to add on to the question that you asked about the difference between leaders 5 months ago and now, I really do personally have a very high bar of what it means to be a leader. And I can't undo that in my mind. In my mind, I think of an organization's leader as someone who is a visionary, sees problems, tries to knock them down, brings employees with them, and is really doing things that are deeply meaningful. And what I've learned over my career is that that's not who everyone is who happens to be in those leadership positions. So how do I help them be their greatest leader, help them step into leadership in a way that they'll be proud of, that the organization and staff can be proud of. So particularly this year with everything that's happened, leaders have really been tested and pressed to be truly a real leader in ways that they haven't had to before, where the pressure hasn't really been on in the way that it is today. So the folks that I'm working with, I'm happy to say are moving in the right direction for themselves personally. And I don't think that any leader is perfect. I mean, every CEO that I work with has some kind of flaw or personality thing. That's every human being. But I think what's great to see the CEOs that I'm talking with, if it's in Boston, New York, or Chicago, they are aware of where they want to be. They are aware of the work that has to be done in their organization, and they're acknowledging that and saying, okay, I need to do something here. And I can work with them in partnership in that way versus trying to pull a CEO along, dragging. I don't want to drag anyone. What most leaders should know today is how important diversity, equity, inclusion is, period. I shouldn't have to argue about that. But a lot of my time is spent helping them figure out how to bring these things to life in their organizations in meaningful ways. And then working on programs so that the words that our CEOs or leaders say with regards to how important diversity, equity, inclusion is, I need that to be backed up with actual action and support and infrastructure within the organization. Because words are very nice, but they don't impact necessarily someone's upward mobility or career progress. So spending a lot of time refining programs has been really meaningful. And then I think the third area is, so I'm certainly being an advisor and coach to CEOs, but also advising and coaching and being a support and creating safe spaces for underrepresented people in the organization who are in an industry that has not been very hospitable on the larger part, right? So how do I help them feel confident in the space that they're in and let them know that they belong and show them that we can make it in this business and move upward and have a real impact, and give them what they need so that they can do that, hopefully. And some days are better than others. But it's a lot of work, and it's important work.
Yeah.
Nicole, I'd like to add something if you don't mind. So I think Julianna, I completely agree that, that working with the leaders that are given the title is so critically important. And I can imagine that for you, having to manage so many of them, it's pretty exhausting. One of the strategies that I like to embody is that there can be a leader in every seat. And that may be part of my, impatience with leadership and how to move them in the right direction. But one of the things that I will require of our team at all levels is that people access their leadership perhaps in different ways. And just given the intensity of the work that we do and the real significance around serving a community that tends to be primarily Black and Brown, those experiencing poverty in New York City, managing where we are in terms of systemic oppression, the civil unrest that occurred, that we saw continue in 2020, the killing of George Floyd, and so many others, right? People that are put in these titled positions of leader can't do the work alone. And so what I really want to see is people accessing their own leadership so that they can affect change.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I love that. And that actually is almost a really great really great foreshadowing into our empathy workout later on today. Um, so I have one more question for you all. And it's going to be one that uh, hopefully gets you guys on your nerves a little bit rattled here. Let's see. I don't know. But no, I'm curious. Of course, you guys are powerful. Your position's amazing. The reason I'm privileged to have you here, beyond honored. I never thought within 7 empathy workouts that I'd have a caliber of talent like you here. The question I have is for you to really get vulnerable with the community here and share a moment where you lost your cool. What was it about, and what did you learn from it?
I will say that, this is a tough question for me because, and this is not, I don't even know how to say it. I'll just say it. I don't typically lose my cool, at least outwardly, right? My role in talent management in HR, I have been mostly successful because throughout chaos or really difficult moments, I am the one who's even. And people come to rely on me as that rock in some ways. So I have developed a way of managing that I don't typically lose my cool. It doesn't mean I don't get angry at things or people or words, or that I'm not hurt or don't have feelings. I've just, for my own mental health, I have learned to put certain things in other categories so that I'm not rocked all the time, which is quite possible given this year, given life, you know. But I will say this year I did get very angry at a situation, and I had to address it. This was not at work, but with another peer set in a board meeting setting. And there's this person, this is the second time it's happened, which is why it made me mad. A second time that this person, a white male, after a meeting, I was in a meeting similar like this, we're all in Zoom, and I had my mic on mute, right? So you see the little red across the microphone. Mm-hmm. And in this meeting, it's like 12 people, mostly white men, 3 women, 1 Black person, right? So it's me and 2 other white women. And we all happen to have our microphones on mute. Personally, it was because, for me, it was just because I was in the office. It was the first week that I had decided to go into the office, and there were cleaning people around, random people around, and I just didn't want the background noise to interrupt the meeting. I don't know why the other women had their mics on mute. It wasn't my business, in my personal opinion. But this gentleman chose to, after the meeting, to gather the women and send us a note pointing out why we had been on mute and why we didn't feel comfortable to speak and why weren't we using the opportunity on this board meeting to talk out loud. This is not the first time. This is, again, it sounds kind of minor, but it bothered me because this is the second time he had done this. He had done this previously where it was a meeting in person, and he asked the women in that meeting to not leave and just stay back while he talked to us.
Oh.
So I had that in my head from a year before, okay? And then this happens. And I had a whole bunch of energy waiting to let him know that I did not need his approval to speak, nor did I owe him an explanation about my microphone, and that it's simply not his place to gather the women and tell us anything. I did it in a very well-crafted, thoughtful, but heated email. which I think, again, like that first time happened and I didn't say anything, right? I was just like, weird. I don't know, maybe I'm misinterpreting the situation. But the second time I was like, oh, he has to be told about himself. I didn't make it into that room by being a quiet person or feeling that I couldn't speak. I didn't need him, you know? So I was hot. I called a friend and they kind of talked me down. They were like, I was gonna send an email. I was like, ah, but my friend was like, are you sure you want to send that? I was like, I am sure. Don't take away my anger right now. But I, again, like being the more thoughtful person that I am, I did, you know, tone it down, but still communicated what needed to be communicated. And I think that was that's just and I think too, it was like the time of the year, right? We're talking about oppression and injustice and microaggressions in the workplace. And I had a person who just didn't get it. In a time where we're talking about this every day, I just couldn't. So that was kind of the extent, but I don't typically like fly off. So.
Oh man, I appreciate you sharing that with the community and the spectrum of that. Because of course, that reaction, like I don't normally lose my cool. There's a part of me that completely relates to that, and there's a part of me that's afraid because that part of me has largely been silenced, that part of me. And so I find myself in situations where I have to really control myself in situations like that.
Yeah. I'm careful to talk about it in that way too, because I don't intend to make a judgment about how one expresses themselves, right? That's just me. I choose to, I think there was a comment in here, and I've heard this before too, that, you know, it's true, Black women don't get to be angry or upset or vocal or even at the minimum direct. Direct is presumed to be aggression. You know, and my email was received half well, but there was a moment too, I did talk to this person afterwards. And part of it, he did take as potentially aggression. And I was like, no, let me continue to explain. But my point is that, you know, it's my personal choice to redirect my energy and not necessarily, I don't want to react angrily to everything, because if that were the case, I don't think I would be very well. And so I choose, when things are upsetting, I stop, I reflect, and I make a decision about how I'm going to respond, so that not everything is worth my energy just because somebody said something stupid, acted in a stupid way, acted in an ignorant way. And that means, you know, my emotions are at the whim of whatever flows by. Now, I can't live my life like that. So, yeah, everyone's different, no judgment.
Right. So Julianna, I just want to maybe encapsulate one tip for the community that I took away, which is something I have gotten better at reminding myself, which is I can always slow down and take that moment and make a choice of how I want to show up, even if I am sensing and I have awareness of a heightened emotional state. I can honor that, give that its space, and then choose how I want to show up. So thank you for modeling that through that story. Stephanie.
Same question?
Yep.
Yeah, I was, thank you, Juliana. You know, while you were talking, I swear, like, I have some ancestors in the room with me right now. I feel the spirit, because I remember my mother, when I was very young, saying to me, like, she just like took me by the arm and she looked at me and said, you know, that mouth is going to get you in trouble one day. Right. And so I always remember that I have to be very careful about the way that I respond, because certainly my internal dialogue, you know, could be one that's raging, you know, cursing, you know, that sort of thing. but you can't, you just can't get ahead in that way. And certainly for me anyway, if I reacted every time I was the victim of a racist comment, a sexist comment, mansplaining, you know, you name it, like it would be counterproductive. So I think about the way that I model. I think about the way that I show up in the world. You know, some friends and I was saying, you know, act with social poise and graciousness. Like that is the way that I want to be seen so that my message can be heard. And so we always come back with, you know, just framing a better way to respond, I think can get you a little further. Now, that does not mean that, you know, a sarcastic quip will not, you know, accompany, you know, whatever I have received, you know, in return. You know, I curse a little every now and again under my breath, right? But the way that I respond to these attacks, however they show up, is more inward. You know, I might get quiet and contemplative. I might go write about it. I might go talk to my partner and like rage with him. Like, can you believe this just happened? Right. But what I'm always doing is thinking strategically about how am I really going to respond and make sure that doesn't happen again, not just for me, but someone else. And then another point, just in terms of like in the workplace right now, I can't afford to just pop off. I mean, I just cannot do that. And as a leader, people are looking to me for guidance. They're looking for what I represent in my identity as a Black woman at an organization like mine. So I have to be very, very careful and deliberate about what I say, how I say it, and the overall intention.
Amazing. Amazing. I for one am I'm blown away. I'm having a little bit of regret that I didn't schedule more time for this panel. So what I'm going to do is actually just take some liberties here and change things up a little bit. We're going to save some time for the game, but I want to take 5 minutes now here to open up the floor to the community for any questions. So you can use the hand raise tool. You can type in questions in the chat. But I'd love to at least give an opportunity. You know, I don't want to be the only one sending questions with this amazing access that we have here. And then we'll also have some time at the end. If Stephanie and Juliana, we normally stick around till 15 after, just to play.
Yes.
We got a question from Kanene. I'm just curious because the people who are being the aggressors are not careful, mindful, or poised. So how can we hold them accountable? A wonderful question. Thank you, Kanene. Anyone want to tackle that?
Yeah, you know, I think it depends on who the aggressor is. It kind of determines how I address things. Typically, people aren't an aggressor with me because I'm in HR. That's just a reality of my specific role. But it does mean that people come to me about things where someone else has been the aggressor. And you're absolutely right. You know, when I think about leaders that I've worked with, current organization and past, when we talk about things related to DEI, the number of things that I hear that are so cringe, so wrong, so ill-informed, and the idea that I can't just be like, are you out of your mind? Like, no, you have to do X, Y, and Z, duh. Like, what? We've been talking about this for 8 years, whatever. I would love to be able to respond that directly, but I also know that the reason I have to respond with more tact and diplomacy is because I am trying to change that person's mindset so that they can work towards something. And if I go on the attack as well, they, one, still remain in power. They're still the CEO or whatever leader they are. And if I put them on the defensive and they recoil and they pull away from the effort that's needed, I have done no good. I want to argue, but it's not effective for the overall goal. So it's painful. But in those moments when I reflect and I think about the challenges that I have in this modern day workplace, it's not acceptable, but I am also reminded of what Black people went through in the workplace before me, which was way worse. We have evolved, doesn't mean it's acceptable, but this is our modern day work struggle of arguing back and forth with leaders around why this is important or why you shouldn't say certain things, what have you. So I again, it's not about it being acceptable or not. It's just that this is the place on the spectrum where we are in terms of progress, and to manage it, we have to also work in partnership with sometimes folks who are not all the way there in their woke scale, right? Then there are other people, like the person that I mentioned from some other meeting who's not in my immediate workspace, or other people who are either peers or junior to me, where it is just having a conversation. And I think this is the work that people do not want to do. As tough as I hear people talk about, well, I would say this, da, 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 it doesn't actually happen. And I know that because they come to me in HR to solve it for them. And what I want us to be in a place to do in my organization and everywhere is I want people of color, of otherness or underrepresentedness to be able to engage in that conversation and not fear any consequence because of it. This is why we don't address things. There's this fear of, if I bring it up, one, someone won't get it. They'll view me as the troublemaker. They'll view me as the person who's always making noise about something. But that's like where the real harder work is, and building relationship. And that's where like you build empathy muscles, right? You say to someone, you said something in that meeting the other day and it bothered me and it's still on my mind. That person is going to hopefully feel something in relation to what you've communicated, and hopefully sit in that space with you for the 5 to 10 minutes that you're talking about it, and grow and think about those words differently, or see you differently as someone who was able to be vulnerable enough to say that stung, that hurt, that was painful, that was troublesome to me, and I want to talk about it with you, and here's why. It's like, and it's hard when you are the person who is like the victim of that hurt, to be in a space to talk about it in a way that allows for more conversation, because you want to just go off, really. But again, I always think about the spirit of progress and the partnership and empathy that's required to get there. Yeah, I've had so many experiences like that. I think that's what's required.
I think also we have to remember the need for psychological safety. And if you are that person of color or member of the LGBTQ community or the intersection of the two, or someone who has been otherized, it's really difficult to constantly be responsible for the ignorance of others, being responsible for teaching your oppressor how to not do that. And so I just want us to be really mindful of, yes, there can be partnership and empathy, but we also have to have the table set for us. And that has to include psychological safety for the people that need it the most. And I will also say, even for, for our white allies, white accomplices, they require that safety as well. But it all will work together. I think it could work in tandem so that we can get to a place where we can have these difficult conversations. But we've got to put in the work on the front end in order to do that.
Agree. Having those spaces or getting in the habit of being in that safe space is a thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're having conversations in the workplace today, I believe, that really haven't happened to this degree, to this level of deepness in ever, really. Mm-hmm. And so I think there are so many people who they don't have the muscle yet.
Yes.
We're working on it. We have every week in our office, well, virtually, we have a group called Let's Talk About. And it's an open forum, and they just share. If it's about the election, if it's about this summer, George Floyd and others, or what have you, it's a space where it is absolutely safe for you to say what's on your mind. If that's accompanied with anger or tears or silence, it's okay, right? And it's a space designed to allow people to be vulnerable and for others to listen and understand and gain from that, hopefully. But it's kind of like the start of that kind of work and making that space and getting people used to talking to each other in a deeper way, which we're really not used to doing in the workplace.
Right. And those in the audience that might be considering something like that, I would highly recommend having a facilitator join those conversations, particularly at the beginning, because setting up your community agreements is so important, and making sure that everyone buys into them and abides by them, it will be critical to helping you move your organization in the right direction, but also moving individuals in that same manner. But you got to do the work on the front end, and it is not easy.
Yeah, so I mean, something really interesting, a dynamic I think came up that we landed on, and we're just not going to have enough time to unpack it all, unfortunately. I think we're going to have to schedule more time to cover this same topic, learning on my side. But the dynamic I'm hearing is, and this may be definitely oversimplifying, but how to be accountable for yourself. How to, and I guess I'm going to take this chance as a segue. The reason why we do this is so that people can hear your story. They can hear your examples. We can actually get into that contact zone together and practice here in our safe space, so that when we're faced with those examples outside of these walls, we have some reps in of what happened, what did we hear, how do we show up, and we can bring that all together. What I would like to do is, I know that we had a few hands raised. Bahiha, welcome back. I saw your hand raised, and I would love to for you to come in to the exercise that we're going to do. So we're going to keep it really short because we're running low on time on the exercise. But I think it's fun, and it's actually going to give us all an opportunity, all those who are willing to volunteer, to flex your muscles of just being brave, putting yourself out there in a situation that's a bit uncomfortable. And this won't be exactly anywhere near some of the situations that were described and don't have the opportunity to respond to, but at least it'll be some practice, and you can do this on your own at home. Cool, everybody with me on that one? All right, I had to that was a really tough executive decision. Heavy lies the crown at times. So Megan Lee Joy, would you, just before we transition into the gameplay, lead us through a quick grounding? We can't go into the gameplay without centering a little bit.
All right, you guys, absolutely. Let's get grounded and centered and move forward into this vulnerable space that was so beautifully set up for us. I invite you guys to close your eyes, and we are going to take 3 deep, intentional breaths. This first breath is on our line of length from our tippy toes all the way up to the heavens. And we are going to take a deep breath into our dignity, into your right to be valued and respected. So take a deep breath in through your nose. Hold it at the top and release. This second breath is a breath into our width from our wingspan. We get to breathe into our deep sense of belonging, exactly where we are on this whole entire planet. Let's take a deep breath in through our nose in this sense of community and belonging. And release. And our final breath in is into our own self, into our sense of depth, into our value. Take a deep breath into this heart space of yours. And release. Beautiful. And when you feel comfortable, I invite you to come back to this space that we are in together. And I also invite you to turn on your amazing cameras so we can see your beautiful face as we connect through our empathy workout. Thank you, guys.
Oh, thank you, Megan. Thank you so much. Ooh. Wow, when you're just charged up with really deep, meaningful conversation, it's hard to even want to leave that energy. But I'm really grateful to get a bit of an energetic change before turning it over to the community to lead us here. So the workout this week we're calling "Heavy Lies the Crown," and what that refers to is a king. A king wears a crown, and sometimes it's quite heavy. It's heavy to be a leader. There is this requirement, as you just heard, to show up presenting a face of strength and leadership. There's a necessary another face of tenderness and grace and depth, and then there's you in that somewhere or in all of it. So today, as we go into this abridged empathy workout, I want to invite you all to think of yourselves and the power that you hold. No matter what you do on a daily basis, you have the opportunity to lead. You have the opportunity to find your most effective way of standing up for what you believe in. And the reason we have these empathy workouts is so that we can have practice around these difficult questions and be in a community and observe different tools for how to show up the way we want to, different models for how to show up the way we want to. So we're gonna just discuss one question this week. It's a green question. I never do this. I never jump up levels. If y'all who know me know I'm dogmatic about going up the levels from happy hour to blue to green, but we're gonna go right in, because guess what? Heavy lies the crown. And you don't always get to pick what level the questions come at you when you're in a position of leadership. So I'd love to start getting your volunteers in, because we're gonna do popcorn style, try to share the space. Take about a minute, time yourself. It's honor code. And the question this week is, are diversity quotas a problem or a necessity, and why? And we're gonna discuss this one until 3:05. So let's see how many voices we can get in here, leaders. Let's hear it. Bahia, you want to lead us off?
So yeah, that's a very tricky question, and especially in education institutions, because that's like really the path to opportunity. So my answer to this is I see it in the corporate world as let's say it's I believe it's necessary, but is not sufficient. If in our organization, I will never address inclusion and equity with only a quota. I think there are better solutions for that to provide access, like support communities, schools, having coaching within inside the organization. So I will say it may help, but there is many other opportunities, initiatives that can be more impactful. So I think it has been an easy tool used for now. That's my answer.
Yeah, thank you for that, Carol. You wanna chime on top of that?
For sure. I think that I can't recall exactly how the question was. Are diversity quotas a necessity, or what was the question?
And why? But you can just go with the. You can
A problem or a necessity?
Yeah.
Okay.
Respond to both.
I would say that it really all depends the motivations behind you saying that we need to have these diversity quotas, in the sense of, are you just creating spaces of inclusion where it's like, well, we had to include people of color, we had to include people with all of these diverse backgrounds? Or are you truly creating spaces of belonging where you will cater to their needs and everything that will rise up with having this diversity quota, right? Like, if you're just saying, oh, we have this many minority students in our school and it's amazing, well, are you truly embracing all of them and what all of their journeys contain? Like, if you were an ESL student, that already comes with so much trauma, that already comes with so many things. Are you truly going to be addressing what that has done to their journey and the needs that they need to truly own their leadership, to truly own their journey? Or are you just going to be like, yeah, we just have you there, but we're not truly going to see you and see the needs that you have to truly take you in and build you up in the best way possible, and seeing the things that you have as you are going to be an amazing leader because of the things that you bring to the table, not in spite of them.
Vicky, do you have something you'd like to add?
Yeah, along those same lines, you know, the word quota, of course, sets a lot of people's teeth on edge. I like to think of it more along the lines of a target, but first and foremost, you have to lay the groundwork with structure of inclusion, because otherwise, whatever diversity increases you have, they're just going to walk out the door, because you're not setting up a place of success and development for the employees. I think diversity is a gift, and you're welcoming diverse people into your space, and your organization has to be ready to help to nurture and develop them. So it's like cart before the horse. I think you have to have a target there somewhere in there, but first and foremost has to come the inclusion and equity and belonging structure.
Nene, you wanted to chime in as well?
Yes, can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Yay! Okay, so thank you to Michael for this whole empathy workout. I've been like loving it, and thank you also for our session last week, specifically Let's Go There. And so I do diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm a senior consultant for Jennifer Brown Consulting. My current client is the American Red Cross, over 1,000 people. That was like my biggest one, and I like cried tears of joy, like, oh my God, like this American Red Cross. So, you know, I never change. I think that the conversations around diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging really are centered around whiteness. It's centered around whiteness, and then the othering of everybody else has to vie for attention, vie for space, vie for power, and then it becomes competition. But if you take the core of it out, which is the whiteness, everybody else is like, hey, ooh, you know, and again, this is not an attack on white people, but the phenomenon of whiteness, which is embedded in materialism, competition, using words, you know, to using language, weaponizing it to then other people even more to feel like they can't even have a say in this conversation, because by the time you look at all the legalese and everything else, people just feel like, oh, okay, you know. So for me, I look past all of that. I see it. I see it for what it is, and I go, no. We're gonna go there, and I am 100% authentic with whoever I'm talking to, whether it be a client or anybody. And I feel like when you're looking at this notion of a quota, who is a person that is of color or other, right? Because again, I also have a bachelor's of science in speech pathology. So we're not even talking about people with different abilities. We're not even talking about people who might have like an audiology, a oral problem in terms of their ability to hear. We're not even talking about people who stutter. We're really, when we think of diversity, the reason why people are so emotionally involved and our adrenal glands are pumped is because of race. So it really is about whiteness. That's really what it is, period. And for me, if you're gonna bring these other people into the space, who are they? Are they Black, brown people who are authentically who they are, who are gonna speak up and check people at any given time? Or are you gonna get somebody who's just like, okay, all right? No. So when we do this quota thing, it still centers whiteness. Well, I'm gonna bring this one in because this is a person of color who also makes me continue to feel safe. So by my very nature of my color or my background or my accent or lack thereof or whatever, you're already off the bat, you're intimidated. Then on top of that, because I'm actually going to say how I feel, then it's like, oh, well, there goes my resume shredded. And when I say mine, I mean anybody who's of color who actually is more, the research says that Black and brown candidates are actually more prepared. They're more qualified. So it's not about the qualifications, it's about the intimidation, because it then decenters whiteness. And for me, what comes up with the quota is asking for permission. Whiteness is still the arbiter and the gateway and the portal to allow, quote unquote, allow these other people in. But that would be, that's how I talk about it. Like, if we're gonna go there, we're gonna go there. And everything else is just like a little waltz. And I'm not here for a waltz. I'm here for a party that rocks out to 3 o'clock in the morning. We're dancing on top of tables and we're sweating, we're getting it all out. That I think is the ultimate goal with diversity, equity, inclusion, and quotas. Who are you bringing into the space, and are you ready for them when they come? Because these people who you're bringing in are also real, and the way you vet them is not because they are a threat. Okay, I think I'm done.
Sorry, I just really quickly want to build off what Kanene said, because it raises something in me. Like earlier in the conversation, my heart was racing and my palms were sweaty, because there's like a lot of dialogue around women, Black women in particular, like figuring out how we're going to enter and like what are we going to make choices and how's our poise going to be. And I just haven't experienced that everybody has to do that, and I don't want to have to do that. And that was like mentioned, but like I've been in organizations where like CEOs cuss, they drink, they're white, and they behave in very interesting ways, and I don't imagine that they have to do all this like mental Olympics of how they want to enter the conversation. And I'm just wondering what spaces have done to like address those C-suites and like change their patterns of behavior, so it's not just like me always interrupting them and taking a vulnerable risk because they do retaliate, but rather like it's addressed consistently, that they just show up differently and in less damaging ways.
Yeah, Erica, I think that's an amazing point, an amazing segue. And I think let's take this into the open forum section, because you placed us right in the middle where I'm trying to figure out like, oh man, I'm new to moderating. This has gone in so many directions, which way to take it. But we're like right in the middle, because last week I did Let's Go There, because I find allies like Kanene who make my palms get a bit sweaty, who remind me of an edge of if I'm speaking one way and I think I'm being outspoken for where I was 2 years ago, Kanene is on this other edge. So she almost helps me to strengthen my empathy muscles for showing up in those conversations. And I have. I've shown up in conversations with people who are closer to these C-suite individuals, and because of that proximity, maybe don't have as much of a license to say exactly in the emotional moment the way, and they have to find the finesse way to say so. And I've been able to be a bit more outspoken, but I'm still on a spectrum. It's all a spectrum. So I guess what I want to take it to open forum section. I want to take an opportunity just to ask one more question of the co-host, which is what are the roles of different styles of voices as allies in progress for diversity in workplace, in society, in life? How do these different tools get applied for progress, specifically in the job space?
Okay, Michael. I think that you have to have an arsenal of these tools in your toolkit, right? So when I was a consultant running my own business, working with executives on their DEI journey, I could, we sit down and have a knee-to-knee conversation or take a walk together, and I could certainly go in hard on them and help them address their white fragility, come to terms with what it means to identify as a cisgender male in this society, right? All of those things. I could go right in. However, there are other situations that I have been in, and even right now, where I'm working with, a board of trustees or other executives, and I can't do it that way. I simply can't do it that way. And I'm in this place, as Julianna referenced before, when you're, HR, there are just certain things certain postures, a certain way that you address a problem that outwardly, is going to require a different touch. And so, sometimes a little bit of sugar works really, really well, right? I always say, kill them with kindness, but do it in a way always with that same intention. Like, I know what I'm trying to get to, what the end game is. And I think that remembering the end game and what you want at the end is really important. How you get there might change from day to day, based on the group that you're in, the person that you're dealing with, or groups of people. So you've got to be nimble enough to know when you go full on, like, oh yeah, we're going to confront this right here, right now, as opposed to, okay, so let's sit down and have a conversation. I'd like to explore that with you. I always know what the end game is going to be. I've got the answer, but how I get there is going to vary.
Yeah, eye on the end point and not just on the short-term goal. I love that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Julianna, anything you want to add to that before we bring it to our closing updates?
Yeah, I mean, my role, diversity, equity, inclusion, to be clear, is it's actually not my job, right? I'm in HR, and I care about DEI, and I care about our underrepresented people, and I care about our people, period, and I care about myself in the workplace. And in many of my roles past, including the one I'm in right now, I think that I wonder what would happen if I weren't there. I wonder what the conversations would be like. I wonder what progress might look like. And everything that I do, the conversations that I have with people are focused on how can I be effective in making progress, which means I have to have conversations with people that help them play their important role and let them know what to do, right? It's not, I literally cannot do it by myself. It's just not possible. I'm not everyone's CEO or manager or what have you. So I have to, and this is not everyone's role. It's certainly not every Black woman's role to be teaching people. But in my unique HR role, for any other business challenge, yeah, it is my role to advise. That's what HR does in a strategic sense. So when it comes to DEI and our culture and the spaces that we make for people, yeah, I do advise on that and try to help people in partnership figure themselves out so that they can do the things that are right for the organization. But to me, that does mean having conversations in a way that are going to allow for progress. The worst thing for me would be to go on the attack with no sight of how we're going to continue to work together to get things done. I think sometimes, and it doesn't mean you can't tell the truth. You know, I have conversations with leaders all the time that are very real and very honest because they need it, because they have a blind spot, a big, bad, terrible blind spot. And I would be remiss and doing a disservice to everyone in the organization if I don't tell them certain things. But I do tell them in a way that they'll get. I'm a pretty good communicator when it comes to folks at that level. I understand their attention is splintered, their patience is low, they're preoccupied with so many other things. But I have to get them to listen and say, this is important. And here's why, when you said that to the entire staff, here's why that was wrong. Here's why you're getting backlash because you didn't understand it. I just don't choose to do that in a way that halts further conversation. It's just me. Yeah.
Yeah, Julianna, thank you for that. Thank you for that. And thank you everyone for this really thoughtful questions in the chat and live. I'm blown away. And it's Sunday afternoon at 3. This is by far, Stephanie, Julianna, by far the most engaging empathy workout to date. It is, as far as the community kind of really chiming up and really seeming, you know, hot to chime in on this conversation. I think it speaks to where we are, and it speaks to the necessity of empathetic leadership and the necessity, not just the necessity, the unavoidable nature of these DE&I conversations in the workplace today. And I just want to take a moment to say thank you for showing up every day and confronting these difficult conversations from the inside, because I can speak from experience. It's actually harder on the inside than it is on the outside. So thank you very, very much. Thank you, community. And thank you for sticking over. We have a few quick announcements, and then we're gonna close it out. We'll stick around for about 5 more minutes with some music and some happy hour questions so we can hear some more voices. So could we pull up the slide? Whoa, that was fast. Okay, so the empathy workouts continue. Next week, we're privileged to be joined by Alan Woods, the managing partner and creative director of Mortar, which is a Echoing Green funded social enterprise out of Cincinnati. They help with enrichment classes for Black and Latinx entrepreneurs to help them survive those crucial first 3 years, which I'm in year 4, thanks to a remarkable a remarkable year in many ways. So Alan will join us next week to talk about bridging empathy to opportunity. Can't wait to have him. And then we just announced, you don't want to miss this, the weekend of Black Friday, while everyone's trying to grab your attention and your dollars, we've curated a small army of superheroes to come, once again, you know it, help you strengthen your empathy muscles. So join us on Sunday, 11/29 for a 3-hour special Holiday Resilience Wellness Festival. There'll be music, there'll be spoken word, there'll be talks, there'll be empathy workouts as always. So can't wait to put that together. It's gonna be so much fun, and I'm excited. I'm excited to spend part of that weekend with you. And we've just recently, literally minutes before this empathy workout, launched a new website for Curiosity Lab, which is the holding company behind Actually Curious and Empathy Workout. So we encourage you to go check that out, sign up for our newsletter. There's more information about the workshops that we do standard within organizations of all kinds, nonprofits, for-profits. We do workouts like this as well. So reach out to us. We love to dream up collaborations. And then we also help to bring the principles of taking your values and living that through with your employees, with your communications and strategy. So we're excited to embark on this next phase of Curiosity Lab, and we hope some of you will come along for the ride. And with that, I want to close us out, as we always do, with an intention for the week. And this week's intention is, I lead by example, change starts with me. And what that speaks to is controlling the one thing in this world that we actually do have any kind of control over, which is ourselves. We're here as a community, Actually Curious, to help us get a better sense of ourselves and our emotions. We are not our emotions. We are protected by our emotions. We are alerted by our emotions. We are influenced by our emotions. We're motivated by our emotions, but we are not them. And so we can't wait to join you here next week. This is our way of leading by example, by stretching every week here in different forms in the presence of this community, and then taking those reps into the week. And I'm so grateful for it. And with that, that's the end of Empathy Workout number 7. Thank you, Juliana. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, community.
You're welcome. So good to be here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Josh. Hey, Juliana. Thanks,
everyone.
Thank you.
Hi, guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Anyone wanna? We'll see how many people. We got the first bit of the crew that left, so we could probably get a couple happy hours in. Anyone want to volunteer? Thank you, Michelle. Bahia, you want to do one?
I already did one, so if anybody wants to go in, otherwise I'm happy to volunteer.
Josh? All right. Josh, with the old school hand raise. Okay, tell me when to stop.
Stop.
Everyone's going in the middle. All right. If If you could spend the rest of your life learning about one topic, what would it be? Maybe write your answer as well.
I would say holding space.
Holding space, that's a good one. Something gives me the sense you're already on that journey, Josh.
Yeah, just a little bit. I would, maybe it's more than holding space. I think it is a continual education on how to help people move forward while holding space for them, and asking powerful questions to enable them to come to learnings that empower them and give them muscle memory, and seeing that progress, and being a part of that journey, being able to stand back and see that growth is definitely what I would love to continue to learn to be better at and grow that muscle myself.
Oh man. Thank you. Well, definitely share some of your tips with me along the way.
Anytime, Michael.
Hey, Danielle, you're a new face.
I hardly ever come on camera, but I'm so glad I did.
Welcome. Thank you so much. Would you like to grace us with your curiosity?
Yes. How do you want me to pick it, a number, or tell you when to stop?
Yeah,
and stop.
All right, right in the middle again. Well, almost.
Oh.
When you visit a new city, you always make sure to blank.
Ooh, get lost. Always my number one thing. Never map. I kind of like get a sense of direction before I go, but always number one thing is I want to get lost. And hopefully I'll be back before sundown, but sometimes that's actually the better part.
Oh man, that is definitely a stretch area for me. I have to pull out my phone all the time, and I can tell by how quick you answered that question that is actually the number one thing that you do when you go to a city.
Totally. I have a very good sense of direction, so I rely on that.
Where are you calling in from? Where are you calling in from?
Oh, I'm in San Francisco.
No, SF. Cool. Yeah. I feel like we've emailed, haven't we?
Oh, for sure. I did. I luckily got my cards a few weeks ago, and I led this exercise with my team. Actually, with IDEO is part of a larger organization called Q, and within that are folks that are just interested in community building and community practitioners. And so I led this exercise during a share this past week, and it was amazing. Everyone was just floored. I'm sure you probably got a slew of orders. Yeah, it was really special. So thank you. That's specifically why I also wanted to come on camera, because it was really impactful.
Oh, awesome. Thank you for sharing this with your community.
Absolutely.
You're gonna have to let me know what your gameplay style is, because I'm always taking notes too.
Okay, cool. Actually, I just did exactly how you did for the allyship and weed, and it was really fun. So made it a competition because they love to compete. So.
Oh, nice. We were gonna do that here today, but it just like sometimes you just have to blow up the program, you know?
Absolutely.
Cool. All right. So we'll probably have time for one more. Ruby, maybe, or Beth. What do you think? You want to try one?
Sure. Oh, Ruby.
How about you? How about Beth? You select it and you both answer.
Yeah.
All right. Here we go. You have to come off camera, off of mute. All right. Right.
That one.
Okay. Short and sweet. Which best describes you, introvert or extrovert?
I'm going to say I'm an ambivert because I love me some alone time for long periods of time, and then I have to like see people. and get energy from that. I'm an ambi, but more extro than intro for sure.
I think I'm transforming into that too. Maybe. And you, Beth?
Yeah, I'm totally ambi as well. And I recently did a quiz that said I lean more toward extrovert, and I was literally shocked. Like I literally like paused and was like, what? But I think maybe that might be a result of all this isolation rearing its ugly head. So yeah, a mix, but maybe leaning more toward extra these days, which is cool.
That'd be a fun study. Shifting identification, what's it, personality identification as a result of COVID-19. I could see that being a thing. Netflix? Is that Netflix worthy? I don't know.
Sounds more like a research paper that then becomes a Netflix series at some point, like everything else.
Cool.
You could definitely use the VIA strengths to use to enable movement in one of those directions, to put yourself in those situations where you're a little less comfortable and sort of jumping into the cold water and instead of fighting it, just being until you get used to it. But strengths can definitely help identify what you're good at, and also what's holding you back from becoming an extrovert or an introvert.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Terrifying thing to think about, but that's what makes it good.
I think I'm gonna put this into practice right away and maybe go get lost after this call. Planning.
Very wise advice, Josh. Very wise.
Thank you, Josh.
My pleasure.
All right, y'all. Well, that's it. That's it till next week. I hope to see a few of you soon. Follow us on Instagram. Reach out to us on email. We're always looking out for your notes. And enjoy your week. See you soon.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
See everyone.
Bye-bye.